It started with a flicker of neon in the rain. By the time they realized the motel wasn't supposed to exist, it was too late. Route 66, a highway steeped in legend, dotted with forgotten diners and weather-worn billboards. It's the kind of road that feels alive, like it has stories to tell if you're willing to listen. But some stories are better left untold. Tonight, we're diving into one of those. A tale about a motel that only appears during storms, trapping its guests forever. Stay tuned, because once you check in, there's no checking out. Emily and Jake were road trippers, the kind who thought every detour was an adventure. That night, a storm rolled in fast, the kind of downpour that drowned out their favorite playlist and turned the windshield wipers into a frantic blur. They were somewhere in the desert stretch of Route 66, miles from the nearest town, when the car's fuel gauge dipped below empty. "We need to pull over," Jake said, squinting through the rain. The storm swallowed the highway in every direction, leaving them blind and isolated. Then, like an answer to their silent prayers, a glowing red vacancy sign pierced through the gloom. "The Desert Haven Motel," Emily read aloud as they pulled in. It looked like something out of a postcard from the 1950s. A row of rooms beneath a buzzing neon sign, their doors painted a cheerful turquoise. But something about it felt off. The way the sign flickered, or the eerie stillness of the lot, despite the storm. "It's either this or sleeping in the car," Jake shrugged. They grabbed their bags and ran through the rain to the office. Inside, the air smelled faintly of mildew and stale coffee. A bell chimed as they stepped in, and moments later, an older man appeared behind the counter. His smile was polite but thin, like he was wearing it out of obligation. "Welcome to the Desert Haven," he said. "Rooms are $20 a night. Cash only." Jake handed over a crumpled 20, and the man slid a brass key across the counter. "Room 7. Enjoy your stay." Room 7 was surprisingly cozy. The decor was dated but clean, a floral bedspread, wood-paneled walls, and a boxy old TV that hummed faintly even when it was off. Emily dropped her bag on the bed and glanced out the window. The rain blurred the parking lot lights, giving the world an otherworldly glow. "This isn't so bad," Jake said, testing the mattress with a bounce. But Emily wasn't convinced. Something about the place gnawed at her, like an itch she couldn't scratch. The first sign came that night. Emily was half asleep when she heard it, a faint, rhythmic tapping. At first, she thought it was the rain, but the pattern was too deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. She nudged Jake awake. "Do you hear that?" Jake groaned. "It's just the storm." "No, listen." They both froze, ears straining. The taps grew louder, more insistent, until they were unmistakably coming from the other side of the window. Jake flicked on the light and pulled back the curtain. No one was there. Just the rain streaking the glass. "It's nothing," he said, but Emily wasn't so sure. The second sign came in the morning. They were heading to the office to check out when they noticed something strange. The cars in the lot. There were maybe 5 of them, all different makes and models, but they looked ancient. A dusty station wagon, a rusted-out truck, a sleek convertible that hadn't been on the market in decades. And none of them had license plates. Inside the office, the old man was gone. Instead, a young woman stood behind the counter, her hair styled in perfect 1940s curls. She wore a pastel dress and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Checking out?" she asked brightly. Jake hesitated. Yeah, where's the guy from last night?" The woman's smile faltered for a split second. "He's unavailable. Enjoy your stay." She handed them another brass key, identical to the first. "Wait," Emily said. "We just need directions to the nearest gas station." The woman's smile returned, wider this time, almost too wide. I'm afraid you're stuck here until the storm passes. But don't worry, we'll take good care of you. By the time they got back to their room, the sinking realization hit them. There was no gas station. There was no leaving. Not yet. That night, the whispers started. Emily woke to the sound of voices, soft and indistinct. She shook Jake awake. Do you hear that? This time, he did. The whispers seemed to seep through the walls surrounding them. Emily pressed her ear to the door, trying to make out the words. She could swear she heard her name. We need to get out of here, she whispered. They grabbed their things and crept outside. The rain had stopped, but the air felt heavy, charged. The motel looked different in the dim light of the moon. The turquoise paint peeled like dead skin, and the neon sign buzzed ominously. As they moved toward the AUF car, shadows flickered in the corner of their eyes. Who's there? Jake called, spinning around. No one answered, but the shadows grew closer, coalescing into figures. Emily gasped. They weren't shadows at all. They were people. Or they had been once. Their clothes were outdated, their faces pale and hollow. She recognized the woman from the office, now with a vacant, glassy stare. You can't leave, the woman said, her voice layered with echoes. None of us can. Jake grabbed Emily's hand and bolted for the car. They fumbled with the keys, adrenaline surging as the figures closed in. The engine roared to life and they sped out of the lot, tires screeching. But as they drove, the road didn't lead back to Route 66. Instead, it looped endlessly, the motel's neon sign appearing over and over, mocking them. Eventually, the car sputtered and died, out of gas. Emily and Jake sat in stunned silence as the rain began to fall again. In the distance, the Desert Haven's red sign flickered, welcoming them back. They had become part of the motel's story now, like all the others who had come before. And so, the Desert Haven remains, waiting for its next guests. If you ever find yourself on Route 66 during a storm, keep driving. Because once you check in, you might never leave. Subscribe for more stories, if you dare.